Hi everyone, this is the Heart Property Managers. My name is Winnie. This is a part 2 of the video that I did last week about know your client. So majority of people who watched the video were asking me to expound on the points on why it is important in real estate to vet your clients and get to know them before you sell or rent your property to them. So I'll just go into the expansion of my points on why it is important to know your client in real estate or maybe in other sector that you work in when you're conducting your day-to-day business. Please share the video, like the video, and comment below. We will bring you more information concerning real estate in Kenya and more especially latest development on guiding you on how you can enjoy your investment in real estate. One of the reasons why it is important to conduct vetting, and I know I'd mentioned that because of the situation of system that is not well organized in Kenya, it's difficult to do verification. So apart from the document, like what is required, there's a form that we normally provide to clients to fill in their details. So I'd mentioned in the previous video that as much as we get this information, we have no way of verifying the information that is given in that video, as much as the client will sign and say they can ascertain that that is the true information of their identity, their place of work, and their source of income. But we have no way of verifying that. In Kenya, maybe the best you can do when someone gives you a Safaricom line, you can send M-Pesa and verify the identity of the person who is interested in your property, whether to buy or rent it. So the information we get is both for, we have information for someone interested to buy, and we also have information that we gather for someone interested to rent, whether it's a residential property or a commercial property. So we'll give you the form and you'll fill it with your details. And should come before you come to view the property. Why is this information important? Because as I book the appointment to inform the landlord there's someone coming to see their property, they should have at least a rough idea on who is visiting. And if you notice, most of the developments in Kenya nowadays, when you go, there's a book that is required for you to sign in. You need to sign in when you're going there and give your comments, give your contact, and give your email. Most developers gather this information, and when they do a new development, you'll find yourself in their database. So in Kenya, it's pretty hard to verify information, and maybe this information will come later and not the whole information. In most places, you'll even find that the landlords do not know your boss or the contacts of your office and your next of kin. It's never available, and it's usually just based that in the hope that if anything happened, God forbid, your family members will somehow get to know. So the number one reason why vetting or knowing your client is important, it is important so that both parties have realistic expectations. On the client side, if you're looking for a property and you have timelines on when you need to move, you have a budget, when you apply for a property, you will be working with something within your means. One, it's a property that you can afford in the duration that you want to rent it. If there's any rent escalation, you'll know it in advance when you apply, and you get a response of acceptance or letter of interest, then you get a response to your application. You'll get to know all these things in advance. So it will help you have very realistic expectations. On the landlord's end, it will also help you also achieve these realistic expectations, because you will be able to plan yourself. You'll be able to know at least by 1st of June, I'll be having a client who is interested in my property for this duration of time. They've also accepted my rent escalation per year, and they've also agreed to the deposit terms and all the terms of my house. If it is buying, if you have your bank appraisal and you know how much money you are going to be given, you will know if you can afford to buy an apartment in upper class, middle class, or lower class. It will give you a very realistic expectation. And when you go to the market as someone interested to purchase a property, you'll be well equipped to say you can afford to buy a townhouse or you can afford to buy an apartment, and what size of apartment you can buy, which location you can afford to buy this apartment, or if you can afford to buy land, where you can afford to buy it. Those are very, very um, important key things to note when you're interested to purchase a property. So from you as the person interested to buy a property, kindly ensure that you have those checkpoints. You've gone to the bank. If you're interested to take a loan, whether it's a SACCO or the bank, you know how much loan you can be given. And then, of course, when you come to the market, you provide this information to the estate agent. They'll guide you and tell you, for this amount of money, you are able to afford the following and in the following locations. On the landlord's end, they'll also have very realistic expectations when you put forward your offer to purchase their property. They will be able to connect what they want and the reality in the market. So both ways it is very important. You'll also have a relationship developing from here. When you provide an application of who you are and everything, the landlord on the other hand has a picture of who is going to be occupying their house, the size of the family, the ethnicity is also important, by the way, where the person is coming from, so that you can provide them with assistance. I've noted that many times when people rent property in Kenya, especially those who are coming from French speaking countries, there's a real struggle because all communication in Kenya is done in English, and these people do not understand English. And so, if they rent a property, the lease is coming in English. They have to get somehow to translate this information. They go to the supermarket, everything is in English. So if, for example, if you get a client like that, you probably will need to give more assistance to them in terms of how they can pay their utility bills. You can be able to translate this to them and make them feel more comfortable. So both ways, the first thing is uh, you get a realistic expectation from both the client and the owner of the property. Um, so the other reason why you need to do your customer appraisal for your real estate property is to ensure that you get maximum returns. There's what you expect, and there's the reality in the market. But also the other times, especially if you own a new property or you just refurbished your property, for example, if you initially your rental income was maybe 10,000 or 15,000 or 20, whatever amount it was, then you borrowed money, you've invested in this property, you've upgraded the property. To ensure that you get the maximum return, normally we have a form that clients fill in after they've viewed their property. So there's the application for the property, and then there's a form that clients need to fill when they've seen your property, whether it's a rental or a property for sale. They need to fill it up and give their view of the property in terms of how much rent you're asking and how much they're willing to offer for it. So I know majority of people feel like it is only properties that are put up for sale that will request you to give an offer. But even on rental property, we normally request that you give us an offer on how much you're willing to pay, the terms of payment, because all these factors affect your request to buy or to rent a property. So if you're interested to rent a property, the terms of payment is a 1 year renewable. A commercial property is 5.3, 5.25 years. That is also renewable. The terms are completely different. So if you put your property in the market, if you have a commercial property or a residential property in the market, receiving these offers and getting a tenant appraisal will help you to maximize your returns. You'll be able to see and get quality clients, the clients that you want at the rent that you want, and you need to maximize your returns. We go to the next item, why you need to know your client and do your customer appraisal. The third reason why you need to do appraisal or know your client is in order to help you to know the market value of your property. A lot of times when property come into the market, there's what the agent will tell you, there's what you feel your property is worth, there's the valuation price that you've been given either by the bank or the estate agent, and then there's the market. And like they say, the market has a final say. So when we do appraisal, client appraisal, and the offers they give you, cumulatively, it will give you a clear, true picture of your value of your property in the market. And this still is also in reference to a residential property, a commercial property, a piece of land, an agricultural land, whichever kind of property it is, the market normally has a final say. Like right now, I know a lot of properties, residential properties, the property value is more pegged on the value of the dollar because it keeps on going up and down, up and down. So majority of people are just talking, I want $1,000 for my house, or I want $500 for my house. It doesn't matter. The client can always translate the amount and give me in Kenya shillings, but I would prefer that the value is pegged on the dollar. So the appraisal of your client, or knowing your client, getting this information from the client, if you are renting or if you are interested to sell your property, you'll be able to know the true value of your property in the market. Correct? Okay, let's go to the next one. The fourth reason why you need to know your client and do an appraisal for your property is because it will give you an advantage to negotiate. It will give you an advantage to negotiate. So, for example, for those who are selling properties, you know how it goes. The property is worth 10 million, but the value in the market is probably 9 or 8 million. When you get offers from different people, when you're doing your appraisal, when people apply, if they're interested in your property, you just don't take the first one, or you just don't accept the first offer. You have room to negotiate. You have room to negotiate because someone has given you an offer of 600,000 for your plot that you feel is worth 800. So you have room to negotiate to bring the value from 6 maybe to 650. And also the other party who is purchasing the property has room to negotiate with the owner of the property through this appraisal process. So if the bank genuinely gave you a loan appraisal of 600,000, you can use that basis to say, even though you're asking for 700,000 for your plot, I was only offered 600,000 by the bank. Both of you are in a position to negotiate and also be able to close the deal really quickly, because you are dealing with real situations, realistic documents that show what is possible and what is not possible. We go to the next one. The fifth, is it the fifth? Yeah, I think it's the fifth. Now, you guys remember the story of Artur Margarian in 2006, I think. Maybe some of you are watching this video, you were not born by then. But if you remember all the drama and the scandals that went with it, there's also the other issue with about the CS who tried to occupy someone's property without paying the required legal 10% and getting into a sale agreement. You remember all that? Eh? You remember. So appraisal is very important because one, if someone is buying your property, they will have to provide proof of funds. And this is a topic that I think when I start talking about it, I'll get so mixed up in everything that I want to say. We live in a country where there have been a lot of issues concerning property and how property has been used to clean money. And so, over the years, the government has developed ways of ensuring that property transactions, sales, are required to take a certain procedure. And one of them is these days you can no longer buy properties in cash, or at least if you buy it in cash, it has to be from a commercial credible bank, a sale agreement that is signed, you have to prove the source of funds and all that. So when we do property client appraisal, these are some of the key important things that need to come before we sign the sale agreement. Proof of funds. Where is the money coming from? Are you able to pay it? Are you able to raise the 10% that is required? If you're paying cash, where is the money coming from? Which bank? Is it a bank transaction? Because you can't bring 6 million in a bag and buy a piece of land, because you'll get into issues. You get into issues of with the anti-corruption authorities. So to avoid yourself from getting into legal issues, to avoid yourself to having your property locked out for long, the lease agreement for appraisal purposes is very, very important. The sales agreement is very important that you have it signed, so that in case of anything, you have a document that can protect you. If you people remember the issue of Artur Margarian and the issue by the identity, and the landlord, I think, went for some time without getting his rent paid, and he had to go to court to get the court to ask Atur and brothers to pay rent. You guys, if you remember that story, it was quite a sensational story in Kenya in 2006. And just last year, we saw how some CS was evicted from a house in Karen because they had taken occupancy of the property before they paid the owner the agreed agreement. So it's always there, but the process of appraisal, once you skip the process of application, you skip the process of getting the legal documentation, people will take advantage. So in Swahili they say mjinga ni chakula ya watu werevu. So if you don't know what you're supposed to do, or if you deliberately skip these processes because you think you're in a hurry to get the money, you might get into some legal problems that might lock out your property from, getting you a client, because now you're in court, and so you can't rent the property, or probably you can't sell it for some time until these legal issues are sorted. So that is another advantage of getting a proper appraisal of your client when you're selling or renting your property, whether it is commercial, residential, agricultural, whatever nature of property that you are owning. That is another important step that you should follow to make sure that you are safe legally. Item why it is important to know your client is to reduce, it's a risk mitigation thing. You reduce your risks, and the risks are enormous. You don't want someone for Airbnb homeowners. You really need to insist on getting a number, especially Safaricom lines, where you can even send 10 shillings M-Pesa to verify the occupant of your property. It is important to get details of the next of kin. When people are in a hurry, I've seen many times that people are inquiring for Airbnb property. I'll send the brief client bio data that we request for. And if you get someone who is not genuine, they will not fill it up. So you just need to send that and say, okay, the house is available for you for a day use or 2 days use, but please send me your name, your occupation, your ID number, your telephone number, which, please, I think Airtel is the one that has the most cases of fraud. So try and get maybe a Safaricom number that you can send some money and verify ownership. Try and get how many people are occupying the house. Get the ID of both clients. It doesn't matter who is renting. If they're saying they're with someone, get the ID. If you are in an apartment, you also need to get to inform the caretaker to check how many people are occupying your property. So if someone said they're going to use the property on their own, you need to ensure that when they check in, the caretaker will tell you, yes, it is only one person who has checked in. And if there's a second person, you need to request. So the issue of know your client or customer appraisal form, it is important for you. It will reduce your risks of getting into trouble with government, because if anything happens to anyone in your property, then you'll need to explain who rented your property and where they came from. We've seen issues about also client appraisal. We saw what happened at Westgate, because when Westgate happened, there were all issues about there's a client who rented a property there, and maybe through that, they were able to get information about the building and everything that happened. So also it's the issue of the person you are renting the property to and the business they do. And nowadays, if you go to many of these malls, they just don't rent their properties to anyone. It's very, very strict screening process for you to get a commercial space in one of these major shopping malls, whether it's a Rich Center, Junction Mall. They need you to provide them with history of where you're coming from, how many shops you own. And I know it's sometimes very irritating, especially if you're a Kenyan like myself. I need a small shop at Sarit Center. And when I go there, they will ask me to give them the history, where I own shops, how many shops have been running in Kenya, and in which locations I have them. They need all that before they can give you a space in their commercial spaces. Now, for residential property, it is still the same thing. More than not, often we have to use other means to evict people from properties in Runda and other areas because of maybe lack of rent payment. And if you're not careful, you go to your property and you find that the person vacated your property about a week ago and you didn't even know. And all the numbers that they gave you when they were moving into the property are now mteja wa nambari hapatikani kwa sasa. So you are in mega trouble because you did not take a lot of details. Because when people want something, they're willing to volunteer more information in terms of who they are, where they come from, and they look at it as part of their interest. If you tell them, please give me the contact of your next of kin, at the point when they've made an inquiry, by the time they come and see your house, you just get more information to add on to prepare the lease. But all the information you want about them, even for future reference, you have it. So the importance of having to know your client or client appraisal, it's for you to reduce your risk. It's a mitigation to reduce your risk, in terms of knowing the person that you rented to, not getting involved with the government. When it comes to property sales, and knowing your client is important. Like I say, it's been said before that real estate is where people do money laundering. So if you are not careful, and a client will come to you, and I get a lot of that. Someone says, please, we need, I don't know, particular ethnicity. I don't want to mention, but they come and tell you we need a particular ethnicity that has a lot of money and they can buy our property at any amount of money we ask. So with that kind of thing, of course, this money that they feel this particular ethnicity has a lot of it and they can pay whatever amount of money is asked. And majority of these clients say, okay, we're even willing to accept cash for this. It's very easy to say that until anti-corruption will come for you, your family, your mother, your chicken, and your entire village will be turned upside down because of an extra 5 million you got on your property from money that was being that is not clean. So that's all from us today about client appraisal for real estate, or knowing your client for real estate. Please like this video, comment, let us know if you need assistance in a client appraisal or a client appraisal form, and share this video with your friends. We are happy that you're here with us. Please subscribe and let us continue to share real estate information and get the market more organized, more how can I put it? We get the market to your property to give you more value, and also get you to know your clients and mitigate some of the risk that come with the renting, selling, or just doing Airbnb business on your property. Thank you. Bye.